Dawson's Auctioneers are delighted to announce that we are selling two very special wristwatches that belong to the legendary British actor Peter O'Toole. I'm delighted to be joined by our watch specialist Edward Langmead to learn a little bit more about these two very special watches. Ed, welcome. It's not every day we see watches like this, is it?
No, never. What an exciting time. Peter O'Toole's personal watches. Now we have an Audemars Piguet, which is a perpetual calendar from the 70s. And we also have a Baume & Mercier Riviera quartz movement, both of them with incredible stories, lots of paperwork with them, and yes, belonging to the late great Peter O'Toole, so super exciting. Shall we start with the AP?
Yeah, let's talk about this this AP first, because this is the one that is perhaps the more interesting of the two. It's got a lot more paperwork with it as well.
Yes,
We've got some interesting postcards here that we can talk about as well. But tell me about the watch first of all.
The actual watch, so it's a 5548. It was designed in the 70s. At the time, as watches go, it was quite groundbreaking in its own right, because it was the thinnest ever automatic perpetual calendar made at the time. So in its own right, a fantastic watch. Now I love perpetual calendars because once they're set correctly, they should be accurate for days, months, and of course years. And this one actually also features a moon phase as well. So it's a beautiful, beautiful watch in its own right, and with obviously pedigree to boot.
Perfect. And this has got what you'd call the full set. So we've got all of the paperwork, all the booklets from Audemars Piguet, and I think perhaps my favourite part. Tell us about the service card there.
So the service card is from a Watches of Switzerland service, and this was back in, I think that says 96, and it's also signed by Peter.
So we've actually got Peter O'Toole's signature on it as well.
Exactly, and that's included in the sale. Now, of course, you can search online and see lots and lots of pictures of him wearing them, including this one, which has got fantastic. How it came to be was a fantastic story. So we're led to believe that this was given to Peter by a sheikh from the Middle East, in the 80s, I believe, in recognition for his work on Lawrence of Arabia. So iconic is the only word I keep coming up with. And yes, we've got letters from the family, we've got the full set, box papers, and it is just amazing to be around this watch.
I think perhaps the most interesting part of this particular watch is how it came to be in his possession.
Yes.
And there's a really interesting story behind this, isn't there?
So yes, we've been told that this was given to Peter, or at least he was given the option of a row of watches, and Peter, having known a little bit about watches, chose what was the nicest one there, and it was given to Peter by a sheikh from the Middle East in recognition for his work on Lawrence of Arabia,
which is arguably his most defining role.
Yes, exactly, and it's quite common to see him on his David Letterman interviews wearing this watch. In fact, in one interview in particular, he's wearing both watches, which is a really good watch. So I go onto YouTube, Google Peter O'Toole watches, and this will pop up.
There's lots of photographs of him wearing this watch, and if we're going to move on to talk about this other one, this is perhaps his, should we say, daily driver?
Exactly. So, well, although this is a beautiful dress watch, the AP, the Baume & Mercier was, as you said, his everyday watch. Now, this watch, again, has a fantastic story. We don't know how Peter came to own it. I presume he just purchased it. But this is the watch he wore when accepting, in 2002, from Meryl Streep, his Academy Award, Honorary Academy Award, Oscar, basically. And
so this is the actual watch he was wearing.
The actual watch
when he received his Oscar.
Exactly, and you can see that on any of the video
it's
online.
Quite clear in the photos, and there's a particularly defining feature about this watch that I find quite interesting.
Yes.
Which is the lack of its bezel.
Exactly. So we're not sure exactly when the bezel went missing, but in the last 20 years at least, or up until his death, he was wearing it without a bezel, which is it's quite lovely as well. I mean, it's a very understated watch, and yes, just fantastic. provenance to be worn to the Oscars.
And I suppose we'll never know why there isn't a bezel, if he thought it was too ostentatious and removed it, or if it simply fell off one day.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously, the thing that springs to mind is the iconic Rolex in Apocalypse Now.
Yes,
but one by Marlon Brando.
Yes, exactly.
Also didn't have a bezel.
Yes. So yeah, and it's completely untouched and as fresh from Peter as it could possibly be.
Now, Edward, there's some really interesting provenance behind these, and tell me about these little postcards, because I know that one of them says Peter O'Toole, one of them says Kate O'Toole, his daughter.
Yes, exactly.
So, tell me a little bit about these.
So I believe they were inherited by Kate, who didn't have much use for them and passed them on to another sort of relative or close relation, and that's how they've come to us. So we had a phone call one day, an inquiry, which we obviously followed up neatly, and 2-3 months later, here we are. We've brought in the Peter O'Toole watches, which
Wonderful.
is fantastic.
So we've got headed paper here.
Yes.
So Peter O'Toole's own headed paper, and then with a letter from Kate, his daughter.
Yes, exactly, including the serial numbers, the reference numbers, etc., and date. And this is for both watches, actually. The Audemars Piguet and the Balmain Mercier belong to my late father, Peter O'Toole, and were bequeathed to me, his eldest child, upon his death on December 14th, 2013. Gosh, time flies.
Wonderful. So we always talk about provenance, but this is cast iron. Doesn't get any better than this.
Exactly. And you've got numerous different things. I'm not 100% sure what's in there. But yes, postcards, paperwork, box, service cards with Peter's signature, and of course the beautiful watches.
And Edward, tell me the auction estimates on these two watches.
So the Audemars Piguet Perpetual Calendar Complication is in for 20 to 30,000. Bearing in mind it's a gold perpetual calendar, it's worth every penny, and of course with Peter's provenance, I mean it's a bargain.
Yeah, I mean it's worth that sort of money even without the provenance behind it.
Exactly, 100%. And the Balmain Mercier is in for 2,000 to 3,000 estimate, and yes, it comes with box. No paperwork on that one, but it's we've done our research, and it's quite obviously Peter's everyday watch.
These two very special wristwatches are coming up for sale at Dawsons on the 17th of November. They're previewing on our website now at dawsonsauctions.co.uk. So do go on, have a look, and if you've got any questions, I'd be more than happy to help.